Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday. We are now at what, the second or third week? No, second week, right? Into January. And the real estate market is still a extremely hot topic. There is going to be a lot of things going to be happening, especially with interest rates. If you haven't seen, they have ticked up and then they tick down and then they tick up again. And we're going to be seeing a lot of these roller coasters of interest rates going throughout the year. We have our special co-host from Pittsburgh, Tanya Cool. She's going to be here. And we also have a special guest that you guys are quite aware of, who is Matt Kelderman. And Matt Kelderman from the DFW, is that correct? Dallas Fort Worth. Yes, I did it right this time. Dallas Fort Worth area. He is here. He is ready to take on the world. He's going to be talking about the real estate market with us. And we have a article we're going to be talking about today. So, Matt, before we get started, why don't you tell everybody who doesn't know you a little bit about yourself, and you can spit out some real estate facts if you want to.
Nice. It's funny that article actually covers a lot of what we've been talking about a ton, even in real estate here and around kind of like the team and stuff as we're coaching up some of the agents. But anyways, hello, everybody. Yes, Matt Kelderman from Dallas Fort Worth. I do like now that like there are people, I've been doing this now enough with you. There are some people on here, like I recognize their names and they recognize mine. Like it's so cool now. So anyways, this is what I look forward to on Sundays, man, getting to chop it up with you and hang out. And now there's 3 of us today. It's awesome.
You were a popular conversation, but I do want to point out 2 things that when you come on, I also get more bully comments for some reason about my appearance. People love to talk about my hair color.
They do mess with me way too much.
It's hysterical. So, you can roast me once again. For some reason, my purple hair is super, super offensive to people.
Especially when I'm on, for some reason.
Especially when you're on. For some reason, when you come on, that's when they really roast me. And then the second thing that people like to point out is every time that I happen to get like 1 percentage point off, they're like, it was 3.7, not 3.6. And I'm like, holy dude. Yeah. Like, good Lord.
The people who like to do that, they have the advantage of going and Googling what you just said. They don't have to sit on here live for an hour and actually know the information. They just wait for you to say something and they run over to Google and be like, oh, look it. She's not the expert in anything. She was off by 0.1%.
Well, the funniest part about it is if they knew how incredibly comical I find all of it. When you guys roast me, I'm like, it's so funny to me that you've literally sat and watched the whole entire hour just to find all the things that I did wrong. I'm like, thank you so much for spending that so much time hating
You're still helping her kill it with watch time. You're not even like, you're having the exact opposite effect of what you're trying to do. So you're just going to see more of Kristina now. So good work.
Oh, and I want to point out too, one more thing before we jump into the article. On Tuesday, I have a very big video coming out, and it's about a woman who retired, spent her retirement, and built a home out of a shed. She built a home, 80s stunning, a home out of a shed. And I am going to show you the whole interview. So she's going to be walking you through the process, how she turned her retirement into something that was super affordable for her. And this house is amazing. And what she's done with it is amazing. So I'm really, really, really excited for you guys to see what she did. I think she said she was either 62 or 67 years old. And she was living in Austin, Texas, and had this idea that, like, I want to find the most affordable way to most affordable way to live. And she found out about tiny homes. And so she decided to do this with a $6,000 shed.
That's so
6,000. Cool. I know, it's wicked cool. So everybody, like, that's for Tuesday. Look out for that. And then we're going to jump into the article right now. Here we go. Eddie's going to pull it up. Eddie the tech.
Eddie's greeting Eddie in the comment section.
Yeah, I got a phone call.
Analyst.
Everybody was, I got a phone call. They're like, Eddie does such a good job on your editing. I'm like, Eddie pulls up questions and articles. Eddie does not edit my videos. Not at all. There may be a slight correction in pricing. Real estate attorneys and economists on what buyers need to know about the housing market in 2022. What will happen to mortgage rates, housing prices, and more for next year. Look at that. Look at that house. Isn't that adorable? Eddie's going to scroll that down. You can scroll down, but stop. Though housing prices may have been rising, mortgage rates remain at historic lows. Some 30-year rates still around 3%, and some 15-year rates at 2%, as we've seen here, though many experts think they will rise, and that leads so many Americans to wonder what to do about buying a house now. So we asked the pros and give them the advice and what you're thinking. Scroll down. I will say that there's no doubt that interest rates are going to rise. The Fed has already said it.
And they honestly have to. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, there's really nowhere for them to go from a downward perspective.
Yep. It says, we are already starting to see interest rates rise and fears of inflation. This trend can easily continue into 2022. It remains a big question whether a rise in interest rates will bring down the pricing, given there is such a shortage of housing and the supply in the country. I want to leave it here. Don't leave the article up because I want to talk to Matt about this.
Yeah.
Do you think, because the incremental amount of interest rate rising, do you think that's going to cause housing prices to rise or decrease? Do you think they're going to continue to rise, or do you think they're going to decrease because of the rise in interest rates?
I think that home prices are going to stabilize a little bit more because I think we're going to see more inventory in 2022 than we saw in 2021, which I think is going to be the biggest catalyst. Because even with a few interest rate hikes, like, we're not going to get up over 4%. I just don't think that's damaging enough to chase a bunch of buyers out of the market. It will if you're borderline on being able to make that payment. I think that's going to be difficult, like it would be now. But the rise in inventory, I feel like 2022 is going to calm down a little bit. We've already seen it kind of trending in January of a little bit longer days on market. I went and showed clients today before, and we actually saw houses be on the market for over 30 days, right? Like, that was unheard of for the longest time. So it already seems to kind of be here a little bit, which I'm excited about, honestly.
But don't you think, first of all, let me just say, isn't that pretty typical this time of year that houses be on the market for more than 30 days?
It should be. It wasn't all of last year, though.
Yeah, it wasn't. But after this, but remember, after the spring, and then because I did a year in review after this, like the spring was about to start, and then they were like, more houses are sitting on the days longer. It looks like, this is the turn of the market. It never freaking happened.
Yeah.
So I think that we're kind of looking at this glimmer of hope, in my opinion.
Well,
I'll get Tanya's in just a minute. I do not think that home prices are going to tank or drop significantly.
No.
And I do think that by the end of next year, and this is just, I'm not pulling this out of my rear end, but I do think it's going to be about 4.5% interest rate at the end of next year. That's just my opinion.
If we get full 24 months, if we get full 24 months and things continue to, kind of move the way they are, I could see that happening. There's a paragraph that we'll get to here in a little bit that was a stat that we pulled at the end of the year talking about the reason I think I say it levels off. Understand, we're not talking about it like tanking. Home prices across the country went up almost 20% last year, right?
Yep.
Like, that's why home prices have to come down. It's not that they're going to come down below that 20%. It's just unrealistic to expect home prices in another 12-year span to go up 20% again. Right. So there has to be some calming down off of that.
So Tanya, you are in the Pittsburgh area. What do you think is going to happen?
So since 2018 to 2021, and if you were on the show before the holidays, you heard me say this, our listing inventory is down about 35% in the last 3 years. So less availability plus more demand equals prices are rising. So interest rates is one of those things that will slightly taper demand. However, because of the pandemic, we've had less availability of houses due to the foreclosure moratorium and the inventory situation with a lot of eviction moratorium too. So if there's less houses that naturally come on the market as a result of those market forces in 2022, we're going to see those houses come on the market. However, that doesn't mean that there's suddenly going to be, prices will not even be flat in 2022. They will still continue to go up. However, not, as Matt mentioned, at that 20% rate.
CC Boone said, send money trees my way. My house is settling. Wall is shifting from the foundation. I'll be calling a company tomorrow to schedule for an evaluation. I will say the CC Boone is the commonologist on our channel. She loves, I love her. I love seeing her in the chat because she's here every week and has some fun things to say. She was quite fun last week. I will say this, trees whether they be money trees or not, by a foundation are a big giant no. As pretty as trees are, trees should never be close to a foundation. So I just wanted to point that out there really quick.
Absolutely.
But those are very good points there, Tanya and Matt. Let's go into this article a little bit more. He's not only the pro who thinks that real estate interest rates will go up. Darryl Weatherfield, a Redfin chief economist, says, I expect mortgage rates to rise slowly in 3.6 by the, he says 3.6 by the end of 2022. This, he says, is because the Fed is tapering mortgage-backed security purchases and will feel the effects of mortgage rates. Dr. Lawrence Hoon, the chief economist of the National Association of Realtors, forecasts the 30-year fixed mortgage will increase to 3.5% by the end of 2022. Meanwhile, Realtor.com predicts that the mortgage rates will be 3.3 throughout the year, hitting the 3.6 by the end of the year. And Bankrate thinks that it could be 3.75. I'm still saying it's going to be over 4 at the point during the year. But there will be ups and downs along the way. Concerns about slower economic growth will creep in. So what do you have to say, my friend?
Yeah, I think this is just one of those things where, I'm obviously not a lender and I'm certainly not like the biggest expert on interest rates, but just 4.6 seems like a massive number for it to be at the end of 2022, right? Like I do think there's going to be a couple, and I think it might get up another 0.5 or maybe even 0.75% from where it's sitting right now. I do think that the government and the Fed is fully aware of the fact that scaring buyers off isn't really what they want to do either. We would like for this inventory increase to happen a little bit naturally, because we talk on the show all the time, and I see it in the comment section. I even hear it when I'm talking to people. Everybody thinks they've been priced out of a home. I wouldn't put a first-time home buyer into a nice 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, 1,900 square feet in a solid neighborhood for under $300,000 today. That happened, right? Like it's not an impossible, and $300,000 is a decent price point for DFW, especially the area they're in. It's not impossible to still
That's
find
a lot
the
of
home.
money.
What was becoming so impossible was the fact that people weren't able to use the bank lending. What killed so many first-time homebuyers here last year was the appraisal guarantees. That cash money that people couldn't come out of pocket. They could come up with a 3%, even a 5%. What they couldn't find was the other 30 freaking grand they had to come out of pocket for a house that didn't appraise, right? So I still feel like there's affordable-ish housing. It's definitely went way up, and there are people who are struggling to get in. I'm not taking that into account. I don't know if interest rates are going to be what's going to get out of this jam. We need houses to sell, right? Period.
We need more new houses.
We do.
We need a lot more new houses, and we still need a lot of smaller houses. Not everybody wants to move into a freaking McMansion. Every time they build a small community with small houses here, they sell like hotcakes. I mean, they literally can't even build them quick enough. But for some reason, well, I know why, but they won't do enough of them. Because I understand from the builder's perspective.
I do.
You can get if you can fit 1,600 square feet in that lot, and you get price per square foot, and it only costs you X amount more to build that extra. Of course, that's what they're going to do. I get it, but it's not what people really want. It's
not practical. Like me and my son, we live in an area where they build lots of new houses, and they're all huge, right? 3,500, 4,000 square feet. I don't have any desire to live in a house. It's 2 humans, right? I need 2,200 square feet max, and I'm just buying that because the resale on it's going to be better. I don't even need that much square footage. And that doesn't exist where I live, right? Like, and I'm not buying the 4,000 square foot house because it makes no sense either.
Wow. Yeah, I wouldn't do it. We build them here too, big ones.
Yeah.
So it says the fast ascent of housing prices will likely slow. Oh, Javier Vidana.
I know that.
Vidana. I for some reason he says I say his last name wrong. I'm sorry.
He was on our podcast back in the day talking YouTube.
He's a beast on the YouTubes.
Yeah,
he gives some
amazing.
good information. And he's not a scarer, which I love. Lots of love from the land of the cash buyer. Phoenix, hope you have a great week. Great 2022. Great 2022. I hope you have a great week too, my friend. It says housing prices rose significantly in 2021, and nearly 20% rise. The fast pace will slow, but the experts say prices will likely go up, just like I said. The National Association of Realtors predicts that housing prices will climb 5.7% in 2022. I said 6, so that's not too far by what I thought. While the Realtor.com says it's going to be likely a 2.9% rise. I guess it's going to depend on the market. To be fair, some markets are actually going to see prices fall. CoreLogic market risk indicator, which looks at health of housing markets across the country, predicts that Springfield, Massachusetts, Worcester, Massachusetts, Modesto, California, for example, are at high risk of a 50 to 70% probability of decline of home prices in the next 12 months. I mean, but what, like, okay, so they're saying decline. So let's
Decline
just
from
say
where it currently is.
yes.
This is how articles get really good with wordplay, right? We do this with the stock
Yes.
market all the time too. We're like, the stock market's down 12%. Well, not if you bought in 1995, right? Like, it's down 12% from the number that they're referencing, right? And we do this in the housing market too. Like, it's going to come down, and I don't know those markets, so I'm not talking on those markets specifically, but I bet you that market's not going to be below where it started in January of 2020, right? Like,
Right.
I bet you nobody's going to go on a
Right.
limb and say that.
But this is the thing where it says 50 to 70% probability of a decline. So it's kind of like a 50% chance of rain. And it isn't saying, it's not going to saying that it's going to get a 50% decline in prices. It's just saying this is the likelihood of it. But that, like you said, that's exactly how they write these articles to make people go, oh, we're going to lose 50% of our value. And then other people are like, ha, 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 I can't wait. I'm like,
yeah.
But
if you're an investor with cash on the sidelines, you're looking for something to spend it on right now.
Yeah.
As far as affordability goes, there's still, Pittsburgh is an affordable market, but then we come back with, I had buyers who bought a 2-bedroom, 900 square foot house for $60,000. But again, we get into affordable Pittsburgh, yes, but older housing market.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have to make investments in structural things long term.
In our area, though, we're new. We have a lot of new construction. So our biggest problem is that we don't have enough new construction, but we also just put in moratoriums because they were building them houses so fast that they weren't building the infrastructure and the roads were crumbling underneath them. So we have a moratorium on building right now. I don't know how it is in your area. I think you're a little bit more, you got your roads and stuff in check.
They're building where they can. The problem here is just trades right now. It's honestly, it's human capital. I don't think it's any longer lumber and things like that. It's finding people who are doing quality work.
I'm going to make a point that somebody had made. And they're like, the reason why is that people aren't showing up to jobs because they're living off the government. And I'm like, hold on 1 minute. The money that was coming in from all these, like he was saying, free money. I said, that's ended 4-6 months ago. That's done. Nobody's getting a check from the government every week not to work. That isn't even in existence. If you quit your job, I don't know how it is in the state of Texas, but in the state of Louisiana, if you quit your job, you're not getting unemployment, period, end. And there is a limitation to unemployment. It's not never ending. If you get let go of your job, you can't stay on unemployment for 3 years. That doesn't exist. It stops.
Did you see how many people quit their job in the United States in the month of November?
It was like 4.8 million people.
4.5 million people quit their job in November, right? Like, this isn't like people can't find work, right? Like, this is people opting out. And I don't have the answer to this question, but I was talking to some other nerds the other day about it, and we were all like wondering why this was happening. And like, is there just this move? Did COVID do something to the world in the way we view our time spent and what we're willing to trade that time for from a dollar's perspective? And now there's so many services that are needed that didn't exist before, right? Delivery service being one of them, right? Are there so many people opting into that model of business where they can now work for themselves, keep the majority of their money, right? And not have the stress of maybe what they've considered to be a 9-to-5 job, that like now the world, the way it's changed and we just want things brought to us and delivered. Is that really like where these 4.5 million people go?
Yes. And not only that, I think a lot of people took into perspective that they thought that their company was going to take care of them. Then when the poop hit the fan, they were like, where is my company when I need them most? Like, I thought we were going to be, doing this. We've done this before. How come you're doing this? And a lot of people didn't want to go back to the office. They're like, my productivity levels are higher than they've ever been, ever, when I started working from home. And you're going to make me come back to the office to be micromanaged? Give me me a freaking break. I'm not going to do that. And a lot
some
of people
companies
have
actually
the joy of working for themselves too. Like there's
some
lots
companies
of
actually decrease pay, right? Like some companies were like, hey, now that we don't need you to come in, we're also going to pay for the office space, but we're not just going to like realize that's an expense we can save. We're also going to double down and be like, now that we don't pay for that, we're going to pay you less too. Like I could see, and again, I was a bartender and then a real estate agent. I've never worked a single second in a corporate environment, right? So I don't have this perspective at all, but I can see why people wouldn't want to do it, right? When given another option, I can see why you'd be like, I'm out. There's no retirement plan. Insurance isn't that great.
Pensions are gone. Nobody gets a pension unless you're like high dollar.
You work for 2 weeks, you get your money, you spend that money, you go work 2 more weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're like a hamster in a wheel. And some jobs, I'm not saying all jobs, of course.
Not all jobs, but most 9 to 5 employee-based jobs are not getting you to the retirement plan that's going to make a single difference in your long-term healthcare and your long-term your long-term ability to not work. Most people will work for the majority of their lives. And that's
absolutely. Absolutely. And the how many people, like when my parents were growing up, I mean, everybody got a pension. They're like, that's part of working for this company. That's why people worked for them for freaking years. And now people are like, forget you, like I can work for myself. Like baloney. I don't need to do this. I don't need to work for you. I can make just as much money and I don't have to spend as much gas going to my job and I can do it all online. I think people have opened their mind because they realized their company was not treating them well and they found a different way of doing it because they're like, I'm not saving for retirement. Nobody stays at a company for 30 years anymore because they don't give a reason for you to stay anymore. So that's it.
I agree.
We're going to keep moving on with this because people are going to, this has nothing to do with real estate.
People are going to eject.
There's a significant, there may be a significant correction in pricing if anyone is expecting prices to go down significantly, they're going to be up for a rude awakening. Thank you, Davis. I appreciate you. All right, and he's going to scroll down. There's so many advertisements.
That line is dead on. I mean, that if you take anything from this article, like it's not going to fall through the bottom of the floor. It's just not.
Exactly.
The buyers that I had that waited on the sidelines thinking that 2021 was going to correct from 2020 or that 2022 was going to correct, they come to me now and they're like, I made boo-boo.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was a lot of stuff out there. Looking for a WFM job. Oh, work from home. Thank you. I'm old. Thank God I have somebody younger here. So I don't have to wear pants. I wear sweatpants all the time, not gonna lie. Long and short says, left my full-time job, restaurant job a few years ago to become an eBay reseller. There you go.
Congrats on that, brother. That was my 2013. I had been in restaurants for 16 years and I walked away and went full-time into entrepreneurship, and it's good call.
Best thing I ever did.
Yes.
Best thing I ever did.
I know a restaurant owner in Pittsburgh who has 8 restaurants, and he actually did a full-scale survey on his former bartenders and servers, and 85% of them are working in like Instacart, any of the delivery-based services. So they were unemployed for a very short period of time, and they've completely gone into that newer industry. So to all the people quitting their jobs, I would suspect that they moved into the new economy of delivery services.
It says the next line of this says, don't get caught up in the buying frenzy. Yes, buying has big advantages, including real estate appreciation. It averages around 4% a year. That's the average, 4%. Even if we went up 4% next year, that would be normal. That does not mean prices are tanking. And tax perks like mortgage interest rate deductions. But it's not always the right move. The rough rule of thumb is that if you do not plan on staying in the home or area for a long time, longer than say 3 to 5 years, renting is often a better option. And I tell this to people all the time. And don't have FOMO just because your friend, who got married before you did and got a house before you did. Don't do that. Don't jump in there because you're trying to keep up with people. What do you say, Mr. Matt?
I agree with that because it's impossible to have a crystal ball and know when you're on the downhill side of this. And you and I have been doing this for about 6 or 7 months together now. And people who had bought 7 months ago when I was on the very first episode who were saying this thing's about to fall apart would be really happy with their purchase right now had they bought last May. Right? Like, you don't know when it's going to turn, unfortunately. They just, I had a guy in late 2019 who got in a situation where the house didn't appraise and he did not want to put an extra 10 grand down on it. It was an incredibly intelligent decision the day he made it. And that house is probably worth 130 grand more than it was that day sitting there today, right? Of course, none of us could have known that, right? But it's like you can sit on the sidelines for too long and miss out on a whole thing, right? And that's always in 2021, that's what I thought everybody was doing. And now as we roll into 2022, it's going to be very interesting to see how much longer this absurd appreciation lasts. I feel like maybe the first couple of quarters is still going to be a little bit hot, but I cannot see us moving into next fall like we moved into this fall. I hope not.
I think it's just going to go back to healthy. By 2023, we're going to be seeing just the normal 4% increase unless there's an astronomical amount of interest rate that it goes up where the buyers have checked out. I mean, the supply chain issues with the builders is going to get addressed. I mean, with this pandemonium, I'm so sick of it. I'm so sick of living in unprecedented times, but the pandemonium with the supply chain issues, and once this clears up, I mean, we are finding our way a lot better than we did a year ago, and we're going to find our way again in the next couple of years. But I'm just thinking that it will go back to a more healthy 4% increase into 2023. Now, people have watched my channel, and I have often said this. I was one of the people that were at the beginning of the pandemic when all of those people had taken the mortgage moratorium. There was like 7.8 million people that had taken that. That was alarming to me. And I said, this could be a sign. I made a couple videos about it. Like, this is alarming how many people are signing up for this moratorium. This could be an indication if people are losing their jobs like they were at that time, or let go of their jobs, and so many people are taking this, how many people are going to be able to afford their mortgage and not be able to purchase? It could be a sign that our housing market is crashing. Once they continue to extend the moratoriums and people were getting back to work and we found our way, I changed my content. But that was one of those things. There are people out there that still make that kind of content, but it's not, just be careful of what, find out. Don't just listen to me. Don't just listen to Matt. Just don't listen to Tanya. Listen to a lot of different people and make your own decisions for yourself, especially your local real estate agent, because they're going to have the finger on the pulse of exactly what's going on in your specific area that you want to buy.
The best information is going to come from a local expert all day long. Right? Like, there's just no way, because we talk about this 19-20% number in increase. I bet it was higher in DFW, right? And I haven't ran it. Our team did 310 transactions last year. I didn't see one person run into an issue with their rent or with their foreclosure, whatever the heck, pushback, right? Like, we didn't have one single house not closed because of that, right? But I guarantee there's other markets where that is a bigger issue for sure.
Something like in Pittsburgh, 90% of home sellers, 90% of home owners have more than 20% equity in their home.
That's unreal.
So if they have more than 20% equity, then they have room to refinance, pull cash out. They're not going to lose their home.
I'm going to tell you another reason why I thought that like I was pretty adamant about what I was feeling at that time is I had a closing that was supposed to happen. And right when it was about to close, the guy never told the title company that he took the mortgage forbearance. He took the mortgage forbearance 2 weeks before we were supposed to close. So he didn't have to make that last mortgage payment. That's and unreal. He was short because he took the forbearance, and that caused this wrinkle because he was just basically paying on time because he only lived there for a short period of time. So he would have had to come up with cash at the table, and he was trying to get us to pay his $10,000 in cash. I'm like, you're out of your mind. You need.
That's the guy. The one that we've had. It was the same situation. We got to the end, and we were 14 grand short, which happened to be the commissions involved in the transaction. And he's like, well, if everybody just kind of does this for free. And I was like, bro, I'm sorry, man, but I can't do that.
There was no free lunch.
No. I mean, I'll be honest with you, this guy took the money when he didn't need it and was doing some stuff to try to screw over his ex-wife. So I really wasn't keen on helping him anyways. I thought he was kind of a loser.
Dingleberry. Dingleberries. There's dingleberries in some transactions, not gonna lie. All right, question. Crow Homestead said, European wholesale energy prices have risen by a factor of 5 times to 9 times since January 2021. The cause is social unrest. Is energy prices in the U.S. increasing in the same way? Gas had gone up quite a bit.
Just hustle.
But not my like electric bill or natural gas or water or anything like that. I mean, I don't know. Has it been that way?
This is another region specific question. So in the southern part of Metro Pittsburgh, we have the Marcellus Shale. So we have abundant natural gas. So our energy prices are flat or falling. We have seen water prices go up a little bit. I want to say between 5 and 8%, but that's due to structural, like doing sewers and things like that in older parts of Pittsburgh. But that is not a topic of concern for people. What's it like in DFW, Matt?
Kind of very similar, like nothing abnormal. It's very seasonal and specific, right? When we had the big ice storm last year, there were some people whose electricity and heating bills went through the roof because they were on adjustable rate plans that had never been a problem until we have some unprecedented weather here. And then all of a sudden they're getting a $2,000 electricity bill. But across the board, there hasn't been nutso stuff, right? Across the board, though, it has not been a discussion that's bubbled up to the surface at all.
I'm going to say this is something that Jeremy Knight brought up a while back, and this was something I hadn't thought about, was how many people are living like paycheck to paycheck, and now their homes have increased so exponentially that their taxes will be readjusted, and now that they get readjusted or reassessed for a couple of years, that they may not be able to afford their payment. I don't think that number is going to be exponential, but it seems that a lot of people in my comment section believe that. Do you think that's a real thing?
I think here's the thing is, I think your taxes are going to increase, and for a while you're only going to have on paper equity, right? Especially in a market like this where you're not really. You may be able to upgrade your house, but if you buy your house, you're going to go and turn around and you make a killing on it. You're going to turn around and go make another probably insane investment into the next house. So you're not really getting ahead. I could see if you were really close to the vest and they go up and maybe significantly, but in Texas, we have the homestead exemption. So you're kind of hemmed in if it's your personal property by the homestead where they can get you for up to 10%, which is no joke. But you could also go in and protest it and do some other things. So I agree with you. I don't really see it being a huge issue unless there was some other, like you talk about people lost their job or maybe their business changed dramatically during COVID because they had one of those businesses that were just massively affected by it. Like think if you did makeup for weddings, right? 2020 everybody canceled their weddings for a whole year. Like what were you supposed to do? People who had huge businesses based around that and probably larger payments, their income comes down and their property price skyrockets. I could see that being a space where it could be very difficult for some people, for sure.
In Pittsburgh, we have homestead exemptions too. And there's a whole cottage industry of real estate attorneys who simply fight tax reassessments and been pretty successful. And I mean, again, everything is hyper local. There are certain attorneys in certain parts of Pittsburgh that are better. They have closer relationships with the school district solicitor because in Pennsylvania, in Metro Pittsburgh, about 85% of your tax bill is the school district, and then there's municipality and county make up the rest. But you really want to go to town with your school district reassessment.
We have $75,000 homestead exemption on your property, on your personal property. You can't do that for secondary property. But every time she talks about Pittsburgh, and this is totally random, if you ever go to Pittsburgh, you have to get chipped ham. I know this sounds super weird. All right. So you have to get the chipped ham, and then they have this like sauce that goes on it, and it's a warm ham sandwich, and it's like a barbecue-ish kind of sauce, and it's only in Pittsburgh.
Chipped ham.
See, I need to make it happen because I'm a huge baseball geek, and I've never been to PNC or to whatever the park is up there, and I hear that like on TV, it looks beautiful, and I'm like, I gotta go watch a game there.
It is absolutely gorgeous. Yeah. And when I was in college, it was $6 for a ticket. That's not even college pricing. Now the Pirates performance, that remains to be seen.
That was worth $6.
We're off the rails. We're going off the rails. Nobody cares. Matt Daniels says, "Happy New Year! My yellow Labrador Retriever Sunshine Lucy turns 8 and a quarter years old today. Congratulations." Question: how do you find hidden gems in Louisiana for Victorian mansions like the movie Skeleton Key?
Nice movie reference, by the way.
Yeah, that was great. So in Louisiana, they actually have a historic you can just go look up historic Victorian homes in Louisiana, or they're usually called plantation homes. They're all over the place. And whenever they're for sale, trust me when I tell you, there isn't a real estate place that isn't going to say, or like the local site that will say that this Victorian house, not haunted, is for sale.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, being haunted is a thing, a good thing here in Louisiana. You have to prove that your house is haunted to be on the haunted house registry.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a perk in Pittsburgh, but we don't have a registry.
It's you have to prove that stuff. But like I don't know how they prove it. I don't know that, but like in order to get on the registry,
That's a whole other conversation.
And if you are on the registry, it's equally as hard to get off of it. So there's people that have bought properties that were considered haunted, and they're like, really, I don't want people driving by my house and asking if they can take pictures. Can we not do this? And you can't get it off of there. Oh, look, there's one. Here we go. There's a house for sale.
That's exactly what I would expect that house to be haunted.
But I want them to be like haunted with women in big giant hoop skirts, you know, like going, I do declare it's mighty hot here in Louisiana. Charles, can you bring me a mint julep, please? That's what I want, that kind of haunting. Lawnmower says, Kristina, I think a lot of people are still looking for new construction, 1,500 square feet with 3-bedroom, 2-bath. I concur. And not only do I concur on that, I also think that people still want 2-bedroom houses. And I have a 1-bedroom house that rents like a hotcake. I mean, it's not anything special, but people are like, this is perfect because it's that single mom that has the one kid. They have a nice kitchen. They have a living room and 1 bedroom, and they are happy as anybody. Or it's that newly divorced mom or newly divorced dad that needs a house that they can't afford like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, but they certainly could afford a 1-bedroom house. And if they built a bunch of those, stacked them right behind each other, and granted, it takes up a lot of space and it would cause a lot more traffic in an area. And yes, it would work better if they did like condos or apartments. But in an area like we live in, rural town, Nowhereville, why can't they do something like that? And
I agree. I think it's so market specific, like, because here in general, right, like unless it was a neighborhood full of those, which a lot of our 1920s and 30s constructions, most of them have been converted to 3 bedrooms, but you'll still find some 2s every once in a while. I think the issue that you run into is even a homeowner, or let's say you were doing an old one that was a homeowner, or you were building those. It's just like condos and townhomes, right? It's a smaller pool of buyers who are looking for that, right? Once you're married with 1 kid, 2 bedrooms cease to make sense, right? You're just on top of yourself. It's like why people move out of apartments. I think from an appreciation standpoint, that's why builders stay away from them, because it is such a niche group of people. Like you just named all the niches. That's amazing. There's still a lot more people out there looking for the 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, just from a dollars and cents perspective.
But there's less people being born in the United States than they have been in history. And more younger people are saying, why do I need to get married? Why do I need to have kids? They're too expensive. I'm not going to make enough of my job. I have bills to pay. I'm not having kids. They're waiting longer.
I agree with that's the human sentiment, but the market and what the market desire is so far behind that. You know what I mean? Like I agree with you.
Oh, I know.
That could be the trend. And I definitely think there's areas where it goes. But like when I see a 2-bedroom house here and I'm talking to a client, I'm like, be aware you're in a neighborhood of 3-bedroom, 2-bathrooms houses. People aren't over here looking for 2s at 1,200 square feet, even though, again, that would work amazing for me. Most people are looking for something bigger, whether they need it or not, because the market told them that's what they should get and it's worth more money.
If you're an investor looking for a second home to have as a rental property, those houses rent like hotcakes, just FYI. All day, every day, like instantly. So if you're looking at those 2s or 1-2s or whatever, look at that. Look at it and look like that is I love them. I love them. All right. Do we have any more questions or comments that you'd like to put on the screen there, Eduardo? Because we can just flap our lips about some real estate. Lucinda says, a question. Have you flipped house prices? Have you flipped house prices are dropping and mobile home prices are also dropping? Zip code 35653. I don't know this particular zip code, but I have flipped houses, but I flip them to rent them out. Like they're pieces of garbage, and then I gut them and then we fix them up.
I would actually call that redevelopment.
Yeah, I guess it is. Well, the last one we had was from a hoarder.
Well, and look, and that's here's the thing that I think, and I just go, that's an Alabama zip code real quick, but I think here's the thing to think about, right? Like if you can get into a house, I saw somebody comment this earlier that they were looking for the cheapest house to get into, and their definition of a cheap was he was a construction person and could do a lot of the work, was looking for the cheapest way to get into the house because his talent and sweat equity could go so far. You have to take your personal situation and honestly your network into account. If you have people in your world who are ready, willing, and able to come along and help you do things, you can remodel a house way more affordably than Joe Contractor is going to tell you he can do it for. I would honestly say probably you could do the same work 3 times before they could do it once in most cases. And so there may be something to that in any market. You know, Little Rock and Indianapolis are amazing investor markets right now, right? And there are lots of people who are going in there and purchasing homes and doing work on them, buying $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 homes and turning them into nice rentals or, you know, $110,000 houses, which is, you know, still very, very reasonable for a lot of markets. So if you have the ability to do some work, you can keep a lot more money in your pocket, period. On top of
flipping up mobile homes is a cash cow for an investor.
There's just none here. I have no experience in that at all.
Well, there is a, Michael Wiley is on YouTube here. He has a mobile home investment channel. He's been on this channel a couple times in a few videos. And if you're thinking about investing in manufactured homes, he was talking about starting a business from nothing. He took his last bit of money, bought a $6,000 manufactured home and flipped it for, I think, $40,000. And he was like, this is incredible. This is incredible. So if that's something you're looking into, there's nothing wrong with manufactured homes. I talk about them often. They are good, safe homes. You know, just know that when you're getting into that, you're going to have to put a little blood, sweat, and tears in it in order to get it done. And if you're going to do that with contractors, you might have a hard time right now finding a contractor that's able to help you out with that project. S says cost of electronics like TV have gone down over time due to 2 innovations in completion, which lowers the price. Do you think in a healthy real estate market there should be more supply and prices should go down? Currently, I think there should be more supply. What do you think?
There should definitely be more supply, but should prices go down? The problem with when you have a TV is that you replace it and you put it in the landfill and then you get a new TV to take its place. So right now, we're not creating any more new land. Seasteading has not really taken off. Ergo, existing housing is going to appreciate and historically has done so at around 3%. And that's not going to change unless seasteading takes off. Yeah.
And you just hit the nail on the head, right? Like a TV and electronics are not investments. They're disposable gadgets that we don't even need, right? So you can live your life without one. The need for shelter in some form or fashion is obviously like a core human basic need, right? That they're not comparable from an item standpoint, but even if you substitute electronics with anything else, the real estate market is healthy, and a healthy market is one that continues to appreciate, right? I would challenge to say the real estate market that had declining production and prices would be the sign of an overall U.S. economic disaster that we don't want to be a part of if you're a United States citizen at all, right? Like at all. You don't. Here's it. And
we want to see wages rise and not real estate houses go down.
Yeah, well, here's the thing: the production of houses has gone down since 2008.
No, I'm saying the reduction in pricing of it.
Oh, okay.
People think they want to see home prices getting lower, but they don't understand the cataclysmic chain of events that has to be happening for home prices to decrease. And again, you and I have had this discussion before.
A healthy market.
A healthy market, right? I don't want people to be priced out of homes, but you don't need a market coming back down either. That is not a sign that the economy in the country that we all live in is doing well. It's just not, right? And while I believe that people should be able to afford a home and afford the American dream, you don't want to achieve that through economic collapse. That does not behoove you as an American citizen, period. It doesn't. If you think it's bad now, let's move to like 3rd or 4th on the index of financial power countries and see how your life looks. That's, you know what I mean? Let's do it.
I love that word, behoove.
You know?
Behoove. I know it doesn't behoove you. I love it. Is there any more questions you want to throw up on the screen there, Eddie? Every time I say throw up, I always think, oh, that doesn't sound good. I know I need to find another verbiage. Toss up. There you go. Toss up instead of throw up. Cecilia, I hope I said that right. Question: do you think the interest rate will increase?
When?
Well, when do you think it will increase? Well, we just see a little increase and then it dropped right back down again. This is one of those things. They always do this. Mortgage rates jumped up to 3.4% this week, the highest that have been since June of 2020. Here's what the experts say will happen next. The Fed always does this little game. And that's why sometimes, like, when you see it drop down, they're like, hurry up and lock in. They're not joking, because that doesn't mean that, like, the next day that they're not going to, increase them again. But I swear, I mean, it's like, not that there would be any, this is my conspiracy theory, that, like, when they all of a sudden, like, drop instantly when they were up high, I'm like, oh, I wonder what big corporation needed to buy something in order to cover their rear end. And then they went ahead and dropped and then pushed them right back up again. It says mortgage rates jumped this week to 3.4%, the highest they've been since June 2020. The new average 30-year fixed rate mortgage represents about 0.13% increase over the last week's rate average of 3.27%. The biggest weekly increase over 10 months. This week's jump is consistent with this consensus among housing experts that mortgage rates will continue to rise in 2022. Like I said, the only question is, experts say, is when and how fast they will rise. They always do this, though. They go up and down. I don't know how many times I've seen them go up and down.
It depends on when we have really crazy stuff. I think everybody can remember in 2020, as COVID kind of hit American shores and everybody started reacting to it, they were moving like on an hourly basis.
Yes.
Like, it was flying all over the place. And again, we were seeing unprecedented stuff that nobody knew how to deal with. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I don't see them going down significantly. We're already at historically low kind of interest rates, not the historic low, but compared to other times in the past 30 years, I just think you've almost got to, like, assume they're going to go up from here. Right.
The Fed said that they're going to go up. They're going to go up. Exactly when they're going to go up, trying to time the market is like trying to catch a falling knife. Yeah. So,
ooh, ow! Visually went into my brain.
I know. We can't tell you what's going to happen tomorrow or the next day, but we can tell you longer term goals.
I like that analogy. I'm going to use that one. I'm going to steal that for you. Galen Miller says, any questions, any ideas of the cheapest way into the housing market? I work 2 full-time jobs and still would struggle. I know. Then this is the effed up part. Is home prices as continue to go up, and incomes which have not gone up at the same rate. If that was the case, if homes had gone up at the same rate as inflation has gone up, the homes wouldn't even be at this price right now. They would be much lower. And that's where I think this great resignation that you brought up has come up, because people are like, if I'm still working for garbage, doesn't matter. I'd rather work for garbage at home than work for garbage working for some guy that's telling me I have to work 60 hours a week.
And look, I'm here for it, right? Like, I'm an entrepreneur by nature. Like I said earlier in this, I've never worked in a corporate job in my life. I don't think there's anybody who, if you can go out there and do as much or more for you and your family, spending less time and less stress. The only reason I do this now is because we don't live in a utopian society where I can just trade goods for services anymore. I have to trade my time for money. And if the value of trading my time for money is no longer there, I'm going to find some other place to trade it. Right. Now, does that solve this person's problem with struggling to get into a home? No, that may be a longer term plan. And it may be, I don't know where they live or what market they're in and how much they make. There's so many things that go into that, but it's insane that somebody works 2 full-time jobs, for what I would assume is somewhere between 70 and 80 hours a week, and can't figure out a way to have a home to rest their head for the other 8 hours a day. You know what I mean? Like, that's unfortunate that exists at all. Right. And I think that's exactly why people are quitting their jobs. I guess my answer to your question is, no, I don't know a cheaper way. The system is what the system is. You got to have cash, and you've got to have the ability to borrow.
Here in the normal market, the cheapest way would be to buy a newer manufactured home that's already existing on a piece of property with a rural development loan. That would be the cheapest way here in Louisiana. What would it be in Pittsburgh?
It would be twofold. Either one, looking in like further out school districts, looking at smaller homes. Again, I helped someone buy a $60,000 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 900 square foot home. And the second idea is to go to, if you're handy, going back to the contractor earlier, what we were talking about, if you're handy, if you don't mind doing some manual labor, going to a local real estate meetup and seeing what sort of homes can be purchased that might need some TLC. Yep. Those are big. Oftentimes people come to me and they say, I've been struggling to find a house, and they have these super narrow parameters. And if I sort of educate them on the state of the market, other school districts, other opportunities, especially if they're not as much tied to a commute anymore, that can make a really big difference.
You know, that you bring up a good point. That got my brain spinning a little bit. Like that is the question to ask yourself, right? If we can admit that for the most part, we'll get a little existential here. We can admit for the most part that we are all having to solve our own problems, right? There's nobody running up to save us. Yes. How do you solve that problem, right? And one of those things might be to go a little bit further out than you're comfortable with. But look at yourself and be like, am I okay with, am I willing to sacrifice 15 minutes more each way to move out a little bit further to maybe in our market, make a USDA loan work, right? Or something like that. I'm not saying it's all going to match up, but there might be concessions you have to make that aren't directly related to price that will help you keep more money in your pocket, afford more home, while not having to necessarily, like, you sacrifice time for money. And maybe that's not the deal forever. Maybe do it for a short period of time until you can get in that home you want, and then make some other pivots in your life, right?
Right.
It's a rough spot, though. There's no doubt about that.
Mama Marla says, question, I've saved a few $1,000s and would like to put it in somewhere real estate related. Should I put it into home improvements, apply it to my mortgage, or something different altogether? This will depend on your market. That's going to depend on your market. I would talk to a real estate professional in your area specifically and ask them, if I put these improvements, is it going to really make that much of a difference? If it's not going to make a difference, then don't do that.
I get this question literally every week, and it depends. It depends on your house. It depends on your market. It depends your other financial picture. Do you have savings over here? Do you have any upcoming expenses coming up? How stable is your job? How stable is anyone else who's contributing your household expenses job? So that's a good question.
Yeah, I'm echoing the same thing. It's very market specific, and it can be neighborhood specific inside certain markets, right? Like right now, I don't tell many people, if they're even thinking about selling, to touch the house at all. You can probably get prime dollar and keep that remodel dollars in your pocket. If you're gonna live in it for 10 years, I don't know. What's ugly about your house, right? Like, is the kitchen terrible? Let's fix the kitchen, right? Like, does the master bathroom need updated? Who knows? Like, it's gonna be house specific depending on what your house needs, on what you would spend that money on, which is why, to Kristina's point, it's got to be a good local agent.
Yep. Exactly. And then, and if you want, like, if you're not sure of some of the things that you need, like you may need a new roof. How old is your roof? Sometimes the roofs only last, they'll say 30 years, but they only last 15. So you may want to take that money and put it in a new roof. That can save you a lot, and it will give you appreciation to your house as well. So you want to check out those kinds of things. Darth Bank, love the screen name. How much is taxes, property tax? How much is Texas property tax?
Well, I mean, in Texas, it's going to vary widely by the city and county you're in more than anything, right? Yeah. Like counties that are experiencing massive development are probably going to have a lot more. Like Highland Park in Dallas, which is an actual city, which is one of the, if not the most, one of the more affluent areas in the whole state of Texas. Percentage-wise, their property tax is not that high because it's been built out for a very long time. They're not adding roads and infrastructure and curbs and sidewalks and all those things that cost dollars. So your property taxes in general, at least in the area I'm from, are going to be the highest in areas that are experiencing lots of development, right? But for the state of Texas, we don't have state income tax or anything. I mean, sales tax sucks. It's like 0.0825 or something like that. Is that right? Is that 8.25%? If I said that right, whatever. But we don't have any state income tax or anything like that. Right. So, it just depends. It depends. If you're coming from the Northeast, for a lot of people, they're like, oh, taxes here are amazing, right? If you're coming kind of from, the Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi area, like that kind of directly, east, you're probably not gonna like our property taxes very much.
Kristina's not a fan of the Texas taxes.
Yeah, they'll get you.
Like
the only thing somehow.
Well, I will say this. Texas does have better roads than Louisiana.
Oh, yeah.
I'll give that to Texas. But other than that, we have better food, we have better people, we have better. Louisiana,
She just
crazy guys.
she just-
Better home prices.
I get that. I do that. I believe the home prices are better in the majority of major metropolitan areas there than they are here.
Yeah. Louisiana kicks butt. All right. AABBCC86 says with a $10 super chat, just got the clear to close. Congratulations from our lender. And any closing tips? Do we get the keys right away at the closing? We are in Georgia. Ooh, I don't know if it's in Georgia, but we do it here. What about Texas? Do you guys give it right away? We give it like the minute you sign.
So the buyers and sellers don't close together; they close separately, right? The sellers typically will bring the keys and anything needed at the house and leave it at the title company. The buyer can pick that up after everybody's signed, and then lender says, "Hey, money is now at the title company." When they call it funding and disbursement, before it disperses, but when it funds, it's the key switch hands. 90 minutes maybe after signing.
Oh, okay. How about you?
In Pittsburgh, buyers and sellers do close together unless it's a dry closing, people are out of town, etc. But traditionally, buyers and sellers close together. Buyers sign first, and then the title rep runs to the back of the title office and asks for funding while the sellers are talking and mingling and signing. And by the time the sellers are done, the buyer's loan has funded or the buyer's wire has gone through if it's a cash buyer. And everyone exchanges the deed. The buyers get the deed and the keys, and the sellers take their paper check or their wire to go. And everybody, it's nice.
That's what we do.
Having them all in the same room together, that gives me anxiety.
Well, because of COVID now again,
Yeah.
because of Rona, there's been in separate rooms, but it's usually a very pleasant transaction, and they will elbow bump afterwards anyways. You know, where Pittsburghers are famously friendly, kind, nice people. So very rarely have I, even when negotiations have been very hectic, they understand that it's professional and people get along at closing.
I'm tired of living in unprecedented times.
Mhm.
But I have to say before that, we had just recently separated people before the Rona. So,
Oh, really?
yeah, we just started doing that because, you know, things happen in closings. People can get scrappy. And, you know, and I'll tell you another thing, this is kind of off the rails. This is for real estate agents. So we were having agents basically market to the people that were buying or selling the house. Like, oh, you know, congratulations on selling your house. If you need anything, here's my card at the table.
Yeah,
Dude.
I'm not a fan of that. I mean, look, if you have their contact information after the transaction's closed, say it's on the contract or something, totally different deal. But I'm not asking for phone numbers in front of the other agent.
Lawnmower says, FYI, the cups are normal size. Kristina is just really small. People are shocked when they meet me. I am not a very tall person.
I still don't think those are normal size cups. Those still look pretty.
They're not.
Yeah,
I
they
fit a
still look
whole
pretty
traditional
hefty.
water bottle in here.
I like tea. I like hot tea
Yeah.
a lot. If anybody ever wants to send me hot tea, my P.O. box is in the description. I would love for you to send me your favorite hot teas, black teas. Love them. Yes, I'm asking. Miss Shadow Llama says, question, Zillow said Tampa will be 2022's hottest market. How does the market being hot affect people who are already own a home? Pros and cons. Affects them in their property taxes going up. Unless they're selling, it doesn't affect them at all.
Mm-hmm.
And it being hot just makes your neighborhood sell a lot more. What do you say there, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing: is it affects you really, really great if you want to sell. If you're not selling at all, it's just paper equity that you should be excited about, right? But you're not
cool
doing
headline to
anything
share
there.
with your friends.
Right? Yeah. I mean, like you know, it kind of goes back to some of the stuff we're talking about earlier. Your taxes are probably going to go up a little bit, but in the long run, that should be okay. Unless you're planning on selling right now, the market moving around you doesn't really matter. Now, like I said, here's where I think it matters to people who maybe aren't considering selling. Look at how percentages matter in your life. Meaning, like if you have a lot of debt, you might be sitting on a ton of equity now that you weren't sitting on 18 months ago, right? Like there might be an opportunity to refi out some equity or things like that. This paper money can matter for you even if you're not moving. But I think if you are planning on moving, you need to understand that you have the position of power and dominance when you sell, and all the smacking and and backhanding you get to do when you're selling your house, you got to take that same smacking and backhanding when you go to buy a house, because you're now the person you were just beating up. You know what I mean? Like, it is
You're
just
so
one of those things
violent, Matt.
well, it's just I deal with so many sellers
Smacking
who are
and
like,
slapping and
they don't want to give
man.
up any money when they sell their house, but then they want to try and get a bunch of money when they buy it. It's like, you were just beating up the same buyer that now you don't want to give anything to. But I do think if you have debt in your life, you might be sitting on a ton of equity that you don't even realize. Let's take another thing. If you have PMI right now, right?
Ooh,
if you have PMI right now, it might be a reason to go and look and refinance, because you may be at more than 20% loan to value and your PMI drops off. So if you're one of those people who has PMI and has owned their house for a few years, and let's say you were on an FHA loan, you only put down 3.5%, but you've been making your payments and you're in some of these markets, you might want to go check, because you might be a whole lot closer to that 20% loan to value than you think you should be after a couple of years.
Right. And reach out to your local real estate agent to ask them where to refi, because right now in Pittsburgh, there's a couple of local banks that are refinancing for $0. True story. Did it on my own house. Truly $0. It is just $281 to record at Allegheny County for the new mortgage and for the new title.
Woo, I like that.
So if you go to your old lender, they won't have that deal. Ask somebody what's going on in the market who has their finger on the pulse every day.
Wow, that's a great little tippy tip. I like that. CC Moon says, question. Does adding insulation, cellulose, to interior walls add value to the house?
I've represented about 300 buyers, and I've not had a single one of them ask me about the interior wall insulation. So I'm going to go with no.
And that would be it would be value to a specific person. So does it add value? Unless it's like an older home that everybody has problems with the fact that the insulation is bad and they have new insulation, that would be the plus or the bonus or the added value to it. But if you're like in a house like here, and I said, oh, I have extra insulation in my walls in the attic, nobody cares. Nobody cares. They're like, what do you owe? What is it? How much is it? You know, they don't care. That doesn't add value. Things like remodeling your kitchen. That's, honestly, one of the best ways to add value. Another way is a cheap way to do it is adding some good landscaping. You know, you add some good flowers, have your flower beds rearranged. That can save you a lot of money and gain you a lot of value back. Little things like painting the outside of your house, that adds value. Your master bathroom, if do you have a 1970s pea green tile on the floor, that adds value.
I do. In my master bathroom, I do.
Nice.
Avocado. My whole house when I was growing up was avocado green. We had avocado green at the top, and it was like even the trim, the carpet, the linoleum, the cabinetry, everything was, even the sinks were avocado green. Like, why did they do that? And then as soon as you hit the landing and went downstairs, it was that burnt orange rust color. And everything downstairs was that burnt orange rust color.
That's rough.
Gotta love the 70s. Gotta love the 70s. I love this.
Paint in Pittsburgh is about a 3-to-1 ratio. So if you put in $2,000 of painting, you should expect to get about 3x that, $6,000. It's huge, huge, huge.
Wow. That's not that high here. No. Mm-mm. Yep. All right. The rate update for Dan Frio. The rate update with Dan Frio. Hey, are you a real estate agent? If you are, you want to be on the show, you can go ahead and reach out to me. Many people don't know the difference from manufactured versus mobile. Okay. So but a mobile home, okay, I'm going to tell the difference. You want to know the difference?
I don't know the difference, so I will even learn something on this.
Okay. So if you're what some people refer to a mobile home or a trailer, right? If it was built before 1976, it is a mobile home or a trailer because there was no building specifications that were aligned with HUD of any of those structures that were built before 1976. After 1976, HUD stepped in and said, you have to build them to this specifications in order to be certified as a manufactured home, meaning that they made the house in a manufacturing plant. Those regulations have changed over the years. Now, some lenders, even though the house may have been built after 1976 and was built to HUD standards, some lending institutions will say, no, we're not going to lend you money unless your house was built after 1988 or something, or, because of those regulations have been updated because of wind speeds, wind zones, because of Hurricane Andrew that had gone through Florida. They had really did a big overhaul of the manufactured home industry and the specifications that the homes needed to be built to. So some lenders won't even do anything until that specific date. I don't know the exact date. Don't quote me on like 1980 or whatever, but I know it was after Hurricane Andrew, when it, like Andrew blew through Florida, decimated so many manufactured homes. And then after that, some of them won't do it because they even updated it again. So they have to be like they have the early 90s. So just know, every lender, it doesn't mean that because it's after 1976, the lender has to do it. They don't have to do it. And just know also that if you're going to purchase a manufactured home that's on a piece of property that isn't attached to the land, meaning it's not real property, that means that they have a chattel loan and they have a land loan, and you're not going to be able to purchase it that way. It's going to be something completely different. So
there you go.
That was, I know lots of stuff about manufactured homes. I like them a lot. They're really good. Joel P said, to think about, I almost bought a cabin on Blue Ridge, Georgia. Ooh, at the start of the pandemic. And then thinking prices would drop off. So I didn't pull the trigger. Same cabin now, again, 6 months ago, was about for more than $100,000. I love the North Georgia mountains. Years ago, I lived in Clayton, Georgia. I think it was Clayton. I think that's the name, but it's in Raven County. I do know that for a fact. And that's where they filmed Deliverance.
Oh,
but it was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And it's over near the Highlands. So, yeah, if I could do it, I would totally do it. I would buy a cabin in the woods.
Aww.
Would you buy a cabin in the woods?
And live there full time?
Yeah.
No.
Figured
Not even close.
No.
Not even close.
I get annoyed that like Amazon and food delivery can't get in my building because like they have to have a code, like a little zapper code. So I'm surely not living out in the sticks. Like I'm annoyed they're not dropping stuff directly at my front door.
We do like to hike and be in wilderness and stuff like that. Like Big Bend National Park, amazing, super remote. And we do have a family cabin. But on day 3, I'm like, this has been nice, and now it's time to get back.
If you are looking for more cabins, though, like I actually have a very good contact up there in the North Georgia mountains for a real estate agent. So if you're looking for a real estate agent in that area, you can go to my website and go to KristinaSmallhorn.com and then go to the referral section, fill it out, and I'll give you a call and tell you exactly who they are. So that's what I do. Is there any more questions that Eddie can put up on the screen? Oh, Vandervoort says, question, is it smart to lock in a fixed rate mortgage of 3.3 for 30 years? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't think you're going to see anything below that starts with a 2 anytime soon. And we've been saying that this whole time, it only seems like it's going to go up from here. Right. Not saying it won't dip back down, but I don't see it getting back below a 3. There was a short little window where I had a few buyers get like a 2.75, like a 2.7. This was a few years back, right? Mm-hmm. But for the most part, I don't see people getting much less than 3.3. So if that's on the table, I feel like you got to jump on that.
We all were like, yes.
Yeah. There's no downside to locking it in either. A lot of people are like, oh, well, I'll do it later. Why would you not do it now? All that's going to be required is when you actually pull the trigger on buying is updated pay stubs. So you're going to be 98% of the way there. Just do it.
Yeah, because the reason why is they're timing it. They're trying to time it because they think if they wait a little bit longer, they might like save a little bit more. That's why
if the rate goes down infinitesimally, then they can, before they close, they can get the new rate.
And I agree. And I'm sure there will be people, because it's YouTube and it's the internet these days. Somebody will jump on with some story about how they did it. The reality is the masses are going, that is beneficial for the masses, right? Like for the most part, if you're locked in a 3.3 across the board, most people will be very happy with that, right? Mm-hmm. Most people will be very happy with that.
Yep. Oh, Chris Bracco says, how does with a $10 super chat, by the way, thank you very much for that. How does the savings in buying a used tiny home versus a new tiny home compare to the savings in buying a used regular home versus a new home? Any advice on how to seek used tiny homes? I did a video about this a couple was told that, oh my gosh, if you buy a tiny home, you're never going to get a return on your investment. The minute you drive it off the lot, and they traveled around the country with this tiny home. It was one of a traveling tiny home. They made money on it. They did. They made money on that tiny home, and they were able to purchase a house. So, how they sold it and how they've seen other people sell their tiny homes is through Facebook Marketplace.
Really?
Facebook Marketplace. Yep. And because there's such a shortage of supply of homes, even tiny home materials, it's still building materials. Since there's such a shortage of supply, the prices of tiny homes have gone up exponentially. Like, you thought it was high before. I saw some that were building in Texas. They're $110,000. I'm like, $110,000 because the building materials are just that high. But I wouldn't buy a tiny home for $110,000.
I was about to say, would you balk at that with you knowing what you know about tiny homes? Would you drop 110 grand on a tiny home?
No. I would buy an RV. Yeah, I would buy an RV before I buy a tiny home at 110,000. Now because they're so small. But some of the tiny homes, there's a place in Texas that they're charging mint for tiny homes. So is there a buying to me, for me, if you're first buying a brand new house, I want the ugliest, smallest house in one of the best neighborhoods in the area. And that's what I do. I buy the ugliest, smallest house in one of the best areas, and I amp it up. I totally do everything I can, blood, sweat, and tears in that house. And that's the best value for me. What do you say, Matt?
I agree. Like I said, I think the more you can put in to the home yourself, not just will help you financially, it will also help you over time and just understanding what it takes to be a homeowner, right? I'm a big fan of anytime you educate yourself on the minutia of your day, it makes the bigger stuff way more plausible. So instead of worrying about all the stuff that go wrong with your house, why not just become a student of what it takes to fix a lot of these little things? Right? And then, of course, when you have the line scoped and all these other stuff that you're not equipped to do that stuff. But I'm a huge fan of people understanding home ownership and the asset they own, since it is the most expensive thing almost every American will ever own in their entire life. Why would you not be educated on the mechanics of it? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. What do you say, my friend?
A lot of people aren't interested in that, though, Matt.
I agree. I agree. And here's why I have no sympathy. Don't come to me when it costs you $2,000 to have a plumber come out, right? Because if you don't understand and know any better, then you've got to pay whatever the market demands. You don't get to have this. You don't get to have it both ways, right?
Right. I believe in not being an expert on everything.
Yeah,
but
not an expert on everything.
A lot of my clients don't know anything about anything, and so they'll say like, so and so knocked on my door and they want $500 for pest treatment, and I'm like, thank you for sending me a text. Here is the pest person who doesn't have a billboard, who doesn't have a website, and will cost $95.
And that's the key. And I think for everybody who watches this, because Kristina always likes to educate people on how to navigate these things too. You're a real estate agent. Part of my closing discussion, you talk about what happens at the closing table here, I'm telling you all the stuff that's about to happen, right? You're going to get this in the mail. Throw it away. You don't need to spend $50 on that, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not going away in the transaction. If you ever need anybody, let me know. If you ever call the home warranty company and they tell you they're not going to come out and fix that, you call me, because then I'll call the home warranty company, right? Like a good real estate agent should be explaining to you, hey, I don't have all the solutions to your problems, and I'm also not going away. So call me and let's work it out together, which it sounds like is exactly the same thing you do. And so I know some of our opinions are coming from like our clients, and everybody hasn't been represented by us, which is unfortunate because you all should be. But the reality is like there are some people out there who don't understand that there are resources that aren't Google, right? That a good real estate agent should be able to help you navigate that process after the fact, right? But understanding how to do some basic stuff on your home is only going to save you money in the long run. It will. My
favorite line is that I may not have the answer for everything, but I do know enough people that can answer all of my questions for 100%. Me. I'm not an attorney, but I know a title attorney that can answer your questions. I'm not a plumber, but I have a plumber for you. And I always find because I do have rental properties, I do find good, reliable people that show up that aren't going to charge you an arm and a leg to get those things done. But I will say, if you are a plumber in Louisiana, I'm having a hard time finding a plumber. So I need a plumber.
You and everybody else.
Yeah, FYI.
Unicorns right there.
That was my call to action. Please, if you're a plumber in Louisiana and you don't charge an arm and a leg, Kristina needs you. And we got another question here. Is no says, question, do y'all think the 6-month inventory metric is outdated? I can't imagine it creeps up to 5 without panic. Is that normal? What's a bounce market? What's a bounce market anymore?
Well, so for what people don't know, what no is referring to is in real estate, we typically use 6 months as the middle of the teeter-totter for whether it's a seller's market or a buyer's market. Anything under 6 months of inventory, we say is a seller's market. Everything over is a buyer. I'm a little bit blessed, I think, in the sense that Dallas and Fort Worth has always been under that 6 months, right? Like we've always been in a high demand market, which has kept buyers moving and prices going up, incentivizing sellers to sell and move also. I know that's not the case with every market. I will tell you, I have never seen anywhere near 6 months in my decade here in DFW, like nowhere near it. I think the most we've been is like 3.84 months. So to me, it was never really something that I used in active conversation anyways, because we've never been there. It's always been kind of a seller's market based off those numbers.
We've been balanced. I mean, we've had a 6-month supply of homes, and sellers were willing to work with buyers. It was more realistic until the unprecedented times that we're living in right now, which I'm so tired of saying that. Yeah, but we were balanced. But sometimes I really do feel like that those 6-month inventory, sometimes I feel like those numbers are off. I'm like, we have way less inventory that they're saying than on this piece of paper, but whatever. How about your area?
It's very area dependent. So there's certain school districts and neighborhoods that in the last decade have been sellers markets. And then there's many more that have been more balanced. And then there's a couple that have been buyers markets. So it's extremely contingent.
Even now?
No, not now.
Oh, okay.
No, I meant it in the last 10 years.
Okay. I was like, damn, there's a buyer's market somewhere.
But in the last 10 years, there's definitely been more of a balanced market. But in Pittsburgh, it's neighborhood and school district dependent.
And Debbie, I just saw you pop in the comment. You were right. I was not in Texas selling real estate in the mid 90s. I was in high school. So I don't remember the crash of the mid 90s.
Oh, and I was in middle school.
Like, dude, that was rude.
Not I didn't mean rude. Matt. I didn't mean it like high school. I meant like I wasn't selling real estate. I was working at freaking grocery store. Like, dude, I wasn't saying she was old. I was saying I don't remember it because I wasn't selling in it. I was just saying.
Okay, because you kind of sounded like a tool.
No, I meant like no. I wasn't selling. Like I have no clue. Like in my experience, I should preface everything with this. In my experience with the Texas real estate market, it is not in no time has it been a down market. But I believe it had to have been crappy at some point, right? Like,
yeah.
No, I
like giving you crap.
I know crows on the mouth. Everybody in the comment section. I didn't mean that to be a jerk. I was trying to say I was so immature. I was not there during the housing. You guys know I'm not that dude. Relax.
We do. That's why That's why I do know that you're not that dude. That's why. Marcus says, how do you feel about real estate property sold as tenant in common? Buy 1 unit out of 5 units, pay cash only, no financing available for these. What if I sell those in 4 years? Appreciate? I don't understand the question at all. We don't have tenant in common. That's not a term we use here in real estate. So I'm in Louisiana. Is that a thing where you are?
No, I'm not sure I understand the question.
It definitely exists in the state of Texas, and I would be fully out of turn speaking about it at all. I've never had to deal with a property that has had to even use that terminology, much less navigate through it. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be very much help on that, Marcus. My apologies.
Maybe it's multiple unrelated buyers buying in like an Airbnb or VRBO.
Yeah. Man, I will tell you, real estate school definitely brought that term up. Man, I might out myself a little bit, but it's not something I've had to deal with. So
I'll be quick to tell you, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, so, it's definitely not something I deal with.
There is a scope that I'm an expert in. That specific thing, I have no clue. That's one of those things that, let me get my title attorney on the office. I know somebody that can answer that question for you, but I cannot.
Yeah.
R. Dom Day says, would it make sense when building to build and do a reverse mortgage if you have the considerable amount of equity? 65, no family. I personally am not a big fan of the reverse mortgage product. There's numerous reasons. What do you say? Do you know anything about reverse mortgages?
Yes. And the reason is, in a nutshell, the house always wins. That's why reverse mortgages are a bad idea.
The mortgage company wins on those. What do you say there, Matt?
I have not been a party to any, but I understand business well enough to know that somebody wouldn't offer a product they weren't making money on. And it seems like a reverse mortgage only makes sense if you're in some kind of dire financial situation. It doesn't make a lot of sense, I think, up front buying a new home.
If you need that money, and that's the only way that you can function into your retirement, like for medical expenses, then maybe that's something you need to consider. Yes. But if that is not your case and you are okay financially and you're thinking this is a wise decision, I would reconsider it and talk to a financial advisor about reverse mortgages. I guarantee they're going to give you numerous reasons why it probably not be beneficial to you. All right. Christian Smith says, $10 super chat. Thank you so much. I own land outright in several states. Congratulations. My wife and I want to build our main home in Texas and second home in Colorado, New Mexico, or Arizona. Should we put $500,000 in construction costs into $1 million, into one, or 250 into two?
Man, seems like maybe like the tax implications would come a lot into that. Maybe there's a lot of moving parts to that question.
Yeah. So if you're thinking about for resale value down the road for investment properties, you're going to do better with homes that are less expensive resale later. So it's $500,000 houses take a lot longer to sell than $250,000 houses. Mm-hmm. If it was me, I would spread that real estate everywhere. And if you're using it for income producing properties, I would spread that everywhere. That's how I would do it. That's me.
There's a lot of different aspects that could go into that question. For example, if the second home is in a market that requires a local property manager, you need to factor that into your costs, but you definitely need a title attorney in those areas to answer those questions as to tax implications.
And a financial advisor, a licensed financial advisor.
It's one of those things too. It can depend on what your wealth building goals are. There's so many things that over different markets, I think it would be really hard to determine without knowing your situation, but whoever handles your finances should definitely be involved in that conversation.
And you should own some land in Louisiana and consider living here because we're better than Texas. Just saying.
Especially with jerks like me running around.
I know. Somebody can talk about your age, like Matt.
I did. I stepped in it. It was an accident.
Oh, and I couldn't help but just smush you in there a little bit.
No, it's fine. I deserve it. I appreciate the comment section for allowing me to rebound from it so quickly.
All right. Demeter? Okay. I tried. Question. Seller built an ADU without a permit. Ruh-roh. If we buy the house, are we responsible for getting the permit? What's the worst that could come from having an unpermitted ADU? Are you in California? If you're in California, please reach out to me. You can fill out the referral form. Tell me your situation again. I will email you back with somebody that can help you with your ADU and to know about the ADU permitting. Here in Louisiana, that wouldn't make a hill of beans difference. Honestly, they would be like, well, it was already there, so it's fine. But if you're in California, I know that there's some steps you need to take when it comes to an ADU, and I have the perfect dude to help you out with it.
Yeah. I would say in general, whether it's an ADU or anything else, once you assume it from the seller and you become the legal titled homeowner, I would say just always chalk that up as it's probably going to fall on your side of the ledger unless you start taking people to court, right? So I would always try so for instance, I had a gentleman buying a condo a couple of years ago, and it was a specific condo that had spaces dedicated to the unit, but they weren't the space. There was actually like a roll down garage door inside of an underground garage. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. Those garage spaces weren't actually deeded to the unit, and they hadn't been deeded to the unit for like 15 years. And we're seeing their closing date. We sat there for 5 hours. Why they took the time to tie those units to the building or to tie those spots to that unit. So he knew that there was never going to be an issue if the building decided to do something. Like Kristina said, probably never going to be an issue for that guy, but he was not willing to purchase the property and move forward with a discrepancy in the title work, the taxation work, whatever, now being his problem, because good luck going back and trying to get the seller to fork over cash for it after it's not on their piece of paper anymore.
Smart dude.
Yeah,
But
very much so.
but permitting is one of those things that can get you in a lot of hot trouble when you go to sell. And I wouldn't buy a property that didn't have a proper permits prior to purchasing. Wow, that was a lot of peas.
I just found something out the other day from a client. It's my understanding that the city of Dallas doesn't allow you to change your windows without pulling proper permits. I don't know why. I don't know why I would have thought that shouldn't have been a big deal, but City of Dallas thinks it is. So you got to pull permits to even change your windows in your house.
There's much that you don't need permits for here in my specific little slice of Louisiana, in a county or parish over. There'll be like, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. So a lot of people do that. They're like, oh, I didn't know that. It's all fixed. If you want to come out there, they're like, all right, well, good enough. Just here it is. Just, you can't do that again. All right, I'm sorry. You know, it's in some cases, it depends on who you know. I don't know anybody. I don't have a Louisiana last name, so I don't get any special treatment. So Kristina permits everything. I'm not going to be responsible.
It's the best way to be.
Yeah, I rather I'm not one of those people. I need permission, not an apology.
It'll save you money in the long run somewhere, guaranteed.
Yeah. So it's Debbie Brady says California is very strict. Very strict. You're gonna have to pull those permits. They're not going to let you get away with anything. So in California, reach out to me. I got somebody for you to help you with that situation on my website, KristinaSmallhorn.com, and just fill out that referral section and I'll give you a call because I got the name and number for you. Matt, I know that we're running over into 1 hour and 24 minutes. And I know that Tanya's been here.
That was good timing. Alarms going on.
Yeah, I know. Look, Matt Kelderman is on the YouTubes now, and he has been putting out some major videos. Even though I've been trying to tell him to improve his thumbnails, he is still working on that.
Dude, I don't know what to do.
Matt, I'm putting out a thumbnail course. I'm putting one together for.
Please do.
Everybody.
I need it. I know my thumbnails suck. I hope the content pulls me through.
Yeah, everybody. The good thing is that you're really well liked, even when you make comments about ageism.
I know.
So people still like you.
If you're gonna go watch anything on my page, I went to New York over Thanksgiving, and I sat down. If you're a real estate nerd, I sat down with Ryan Serhant for an hour, and I only cut about 15 minutes out of the conversation. I think it's a pretty awesome real estate conversation. If you guys want to go check that out. That's all.
Is he as hot in person, or is it just makeup?
Dude, he's okay. So I'm 6'3", and he's taller than me. So I imagine a lot of ladies would love that. No, he's a pretty attractive dude for sure.
Yeah. I always thought, I'm like, oh, he is a beautiful man, and then I was like, oh, and he's got this cute, like, super smart, beautiful wife. So
yeah, he's super laid back guy. He's awesome. It was a fun time.
Oh, cool. All right. And then Tanya has a website if Eddie wants to pull that up. He said that he had it beforehand. Eddie. Yeah, let's see if Eddie's on the ball here. But I do want everybody to know that Eddie does not edit my videos. I want to put that out there again because that always burns my rear end.
Like,
Eddie does not edit my videos.
I edited.
I do.
I know you do.
Tanya, cool. Look at her. There she is. If you want to get a hold of her in the Pittsburgh area, and she also can tell you where the best chipped ham places are in Pittsburgh, and the best liquor store, which happens to be Melon Girls Liquor. She can tell you exactly where that is. So you can get a hold of Tanya. Oh, look, you even have your own video on there. Check you out, Miss Thing. Everybody, I want to say thank you to all of you. If you have any questions after this stream is done, please put them in the comment section. If you have any questions for Matt Kelderman, you can always reach him on his YouTube channel, or you can also put them in the comment section as well, the same as Tanya as well. So I look forward to seeing you next Sunday. I'm going to be here once again because I was supposed to not be here. Honestly, I was supposed to be in Las Vegas right now at the Boxable Factory, but guess what happened? Before I go let you go, this is some inside backstory stuff. My flight gets canceled, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So then they book another flight for the day that I'm supposed to leave Las Vegas. They're like, you don't need to do anything. We already got it covered. We rebooked you for the day that I'm leaving Las Vegas. Nice. And then they wouldn't give me my money back. They were like, no, we're going to give you a voucher. Oh, Delta, we love to fly, and it shows. The worst. But all of these companies, all these airline, I mean, they're all just doing this. That's just one of those things. It's because we're living in unprecedented times. We're just living in unprecedented times. So done living in unprecedented times. Everybody, thank you so much for spending your last hour and 20 minutes with us. Thank you, Matt Kelderman, for spending a day with me and letting you, like me, harass you, because that's what I do.
I love it.
And thank
I'm always
you,
here for it.
Tanya. Everybody
Nice
wave
to meet you,
goodbye.
Matt. Bye.
Bye.
You got to dance your way out. You got to dance your way out. You're going to do it this week. You got to dance.
Oh,
No,
yeah,
you're just going to
that's right.
wave. Oh, there you're going to do the dance. And he's going to hit the end button at any moment.
Any moment.
He likes to
Any moment.
Any moment. And he likes to do this to make us continue to dance.